Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Zoom Roundtable discussion, Real Tips from Seasoned Design Leaders, offering new tactics and creative ideas to promote long-term success in a changing design market. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Roberta Mancuso. I am the Associate Publisher of New England Home Connecticut magazine. And today I have the honor of introducing our esteemed group of design entrepreneurs who will contribute their knowledge and expertise in our panel discussion. And I want to again thank all of you for your participation today. So while I know everyone on this panel very, very well, I don't want to mess up anybody's bio, so I'm going to do a little reading. So first, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Elizabeth Ethridge McGann. Elizabeth is the founder of the boutique marketing and PR company, Ethridge McGann Group. With over 15 years of in-house experience, direct marketing for both interior design firms and home furnishings brands, Elizabeth has earned a reputation for branding, marketing, and PR that helps luxury design companies to tell their stories and reach their goals. Now on to our panelists. Randy Sullivan of Gatehouse Partners. Randy started with a tool belt on in the 80s, and in 1999 co-founded Gatehouse Partners, a custom construction company that was founded on the principle that a small company could offer a hands-on approach in bringing your plans to life. Next, Tara Vincenta, who is the principal of award-winning Artemis Landscape Architects, a noted residential design firm serving Greater New England with many projects here in Connecticut, as well as regionally in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, and New Jersey. She's a recent inductee into the New England Design Hall of Fame and brings 30 years of knowledge and experience to the table today running a small design firm. Michelle Morgan Harrison of Morgan Harrison Home. Michelle originally started her career in magazines, of all places, as a fashion editor, so she brings a unique approach to interiors. Her firm is a full-service interior and architectural interiors firm in New Canaan, Connecticut, specializing in full-scale construction projects. Bill Charney. Bill founded Advanced Home Audio over 16 years ago. His experienced team provides long-term services and support, design, engineering, installation, and long-term services and support for a wide range of technology that is simple to use. Bill is an electrical engineer and brings over 27 years of experience to work for his clients. During this challenging time, as an essential business, the company is focused on delivering important new health and wellness technology, as well as remote office solutions to support their clients and families. And finally, Chris Pagliaro. Chris is an award-winning architect and the principal of Christopher Pagliaro Architects, which is the latest evolution of Roger Bartel's Architects. He is also an experienced licensed interior designer. Chris and his team are noted for their waterfront projects all over North America. And now I'm going to turn this over to Elizabeth, our moderator.
Thank you, Roberta. Well, first of all, we're just going to really dive in because I'm so excited to hear what these design leaders have to say in this very unique and frankly challenging time for business. So the first question is really at the heart of the matter, which is what is the biggest challenge you are facing now as a business owner? And Chris, we'll let you start it off. Are you ready?
I guess so. The biggest challenge we have now is business. Design firms rely on a steady flow of new work, and my concern right now is how does that play out in 2 or 3 months? The work that we had been working on has continued, and frankly, I've received a couple of new projects through this. I commissioned 3 new projects since we had the quarantine, and that's refreshing. And I think it comes back to people wanting to look. They're in their home. They're looking at their home. They're saying this is wrong. So we've gotten some pretty interesting work through the process. But the challenge is gathering new work. You don't know in a few months, as I said, where it's going to be. And then there's the practicality of getting it accomplished. You could design, but then you have to go through the municipalities for approvals, and all of that right now is a little off. I think all the towns are doing a really good job and trying real hard to accommodate. But it's not business as normal when it comes to that.
That's great. To that point, Kara, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on logistics with what you do with landscaping and visiting job sites. Is that especially challenging now?
Yes. You know, within my firm, I'm really the only one that's doing job site visits. I don't want to put anybody else at risk. But what we have found, because we work in multiple states too, that we have to be really cognizant of what the regulations are in other areas. So New York State, as everyone knows, since we have a very close relationship with them here on the Connecticut border, you know, New York is shut down. So we can't really see any progress on those job sites right now, which is challenging because it's spring and everybody would like to move forward. We also have some challenges in New Jersey where a project that is really underway. You can only have 5 people on the job site at a time. So that's like an incredible orchestration that has to happen. You know, that really the builder is orchestrating in terms of like who can be on a site at any one time. And then the town that we're working within also has certain ordinances where you have to be finished with the construction by a certain date. So we're really, you know, under a tight deadline there and trying to do the best we can for our client. We also have another project, ongoing projects in Connecticut, which we're grateful for. And we're finding new ways to work with our clients, as all of us are, I'm sure, doing Zoom meetings ahead of time. And then when we do go out to a job site, we're able to interact with our clients, social distancing, and lucky for me, you know, our work is outside. So, you know, we can still manage to communicate directly in person with clients, which I think is important too, you know, by being just safe distancing and wearing a face mask. Some of the challenges there, I think, are also that, you know, everybody has, just in terms of who's working outside, sometimes they're wearing masks and sometimes they're not. So we're finding that that's a little irregular. Another job that we have in Rhode Island, luckily we were able to get into that job and get site photos and everything before all of this began, but I'd really like to go back. And I don't know if I can drive into the state. So we're working with the architect to try and give us a route where we won't get stopped so that we can actually get to where we need to be to do what we need to do for our clients. So we're working through those kind of issues. And I think just in the beginning, the biggest challenge was switching gears internally in the office. You know, we are very lucky that we have remote servers and everybody was able to basically, you know, at the drop of a hat, you know, we had an in-office meeting and everybody went home and we started working remotely. But I think that, you know, everything just goes at a little bit slower pace because there's so much back and forth that happens online when we're used to doing that collaboratively in person in the office. So the gears have slowed a little bit, you know, and so it's taken a little while for everybody to kind of readjust to that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just working with employees now remotely when everyone is different situations, you know. And I want to get to that. But one thing I should have said before, if you have questions while you're watching this, for everyone watching at home, please submit them. You can do that in the little Q&A box. And we also received some questions at the beginning. So what we're going to do is after we have our discussion points at around 10:45, we'll see how we're doing on time. We'll open it up and the panelists will answer those questions. And if you have someone that you want to ask that question to, that's also helpful to put in there. Otherwise, I will decide. Okay, so on the subject of employees, first of all, I want to congratulate and just say kudos to all of you, because no one on this panel has had to lay off any employees, which is really fantastic given the economic climate. So that's great. But how are you able to keep them, and why was that so important, and how are you working together now? So Bill, if you could talk about your reasoning for why it was so important that you keep all your employees right now.
Yeah, sure. I think we have been fortunate that our essential business skill set in supporting clients has really allowed us to keep busy. And I think the other reason, so we've had some work, a fair amount of work supporting clients, just being creative in a slightly different way. And I know I wasn't looking to come out of this and have to rebuild our team. So we just had to be flexible. You know, as a business owner, as a team, we had to be flexible about shifting roles. Most of our team is still working in the field. You know, our technicians are out in clients' homes and out on projects, you know, day to day. And our office, you know, for the most part is working remotely. And, you know, we had some of our staff that have, you know, family situations that just, we had to be flexible and try to take some tasks and responsibilities and shift them to those people. And maybe they're wearing a hat that they weren't wearing before this all started. And the idea is to come out of this not having to deal with rebuilding a staff, but you know, to have that same team so we can hit the ground running and we can still maintain. And we've actually shifted some of our installation team off to service. So, and on the service side, we're maintaining clients' homes, their networks, their security systems, communication when they're working remotely, you know, for their corporate, you know, responsibilities and things like that. So we've had to do a lot of we had to deal with a lot of change to make it happen.
That's great. Michelle, did you want to speak about how you're working with employees and why it was so important to keep them on? Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, we shifted fairly immediately as well, because we went out when the schools went out. So everyone was able to take their desktops or laptops home and do all of that. But it definitely has been a challenge, and it's a challenge because so much we were talking about falls to you as the homeowner, as the business owner as well. And, you know, because you're the one kind of manning the office. And, you know, when a cutting for approval comes in and it's wrong and someone else is like, find another one, that's on you. But it's just been, it's definitely been a challenge in that regard. And I think at the beginning, people were very different. It was very hard for people to assimilate. And it was very hard to like concentrate the first 3-4 weeks out. Since then, I think we've really started to hit our stride with things definitely, just like Tara said, it takes so much longer, every aspect, just the communication, the hours you're on Zoom every day. And you know, and it really is, you know, has been a challenge, but I wanted to keep, we have a lot of projects in the pipeline, a lot of construction that are down the way. So we have a lot of work that we needed to do. So it wasn't really an option to lay people off with that regard, because we actually had to, it was deliverables. The challenge is balancing the new work that we were supposed to take on and do, which we had to really, when it comes to fabrics, that really is very difficult to do. It's a very collaborative thing. It's very difficult to do that from a remote situation. So those jobs that we were starting that were interior only, we postponed and kind of pushed out, but we're starting to we have to start moving on it. So, you know, oddly, I had half of my staff get COVID. So they are recuperated and back working, and, you know, have gone out for antibody tests, et cetera. And so, you know, we're starting the process of bringing people in that are comfortable coming back into the office. And we've been wearing, the few times people have been in, we've worn gloves and masks and, working from that and that angle. But it's, there's certain things that you have to do in person with a team, and it's a challenge. But I think that being able to get the PPP, which was a long process because we didn't get the first round, was important. And we're very fortunate to have a very strong group of in the design community that are very helpful in Connecticut. And I'm part of a design share group, and that support has been wonderful. And we've been able to really share information and really navigate through this, because that's been a challenge as well.
That's great. In terms of employees, I mean, everyone has such unique situations right now. And Randy, you have a family business. What is that like working with your family, and what are the situations at home?
It's been interesting. My son just had a baby 8 months ago, and his wife works in the medical field in the city. So he had to take over caring for the child, and he was he did all the estimating and contracts and stuff in the office. So we've had to shift some of that over. He's able to do some of it, but taking care of an 8-month-old is something time consuming. And my daughter also works with us. She's taken up some of that. She does our project managing, keeping the boys on track in the field from home. They're both working from home. And but my other employees have been with me for 20 years. So laying them off wasn't an option. Luckily, we have work to keep people going. And it's been very interesting, though. Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's really all hands on deck, especially if you're the business owner and a lot of your employees, have 8-month-olds or single moms or all of that. So you guys are all working really hard. How are you able to, inspire your employees during this time and really get everyone to continue to work as a team? Tara, are you doing, Zoom calls, or what's working?
Yeah, I mean, from the get-go, I knew it was going to be important to try and keep everyone on the same page, especially since we were all remote. And I was very aware of the fact that although, we're all having a similar experience, we're all in different circumstances. And in my office, I have employees that have young children that are being homeschooled. I also have an employee that has a baby, and so no childcare. And I think just adjusting to working at home is it's different for everybody. So, and there's, the uncertainty of the time, I think, too, especially at the beginning of this. So, we established that at 9:15 every morning we were going to have a Zoom call. And it's been a really nice thing. And I think that, I always try to ask everybody, of course, first and foremost, how are they doing? Are they healthy? Is their family healthy? Are their relatives healthy? And we talk a little bit first just about our regular lives and what we're cooking, basically, because isn't everybody like baking things? And so we're all talking about, just regular life aside from work also. And, I have to admit that even for me, at certain points, like you get a month in and you say to yourself, when is this going to end? So, rather than going into overwhelm, I try to remind my staff that, if we just take this inch by inch, we'll get through it, and not to get overwhelmed, because like a lot of people here, we have things in the pipeline and we have work to get done. I think that we all have to have flexibility, like Bill said, and just a little more compassion and understanding at this time. So, but the Zoom meetings every day are very helpful. And then, it's evolved into FaceTime calls, later in the day to work through certain issues. So, I think we're all getting the hang of it, if you will, in terms of how to be more productive in a completely different situation and support each other personally as well as professionally, which I think is really important and valuable to everybody at this time. I mean, my staff is like my family. We all have had people with us for a number of years, and we value them. So we want to find ways to prop everybody up. So
that's great. In terms of how your employees are dealing with this beyond, checking in and, on an emotional level, are you finding that you have a team in place that can still work together remotely? And I'm wondering, Chris, we talked a little bit about that. What's been your experience with your team and translating that from, in-house where you're an architect and so much of that is collaborative, and how do you do that in a virtual way?
Well, the first 2 weeks I was in heaven because I was alone, and I realized that I had my day back, and I could sit and I could sketch and I could draw, and it was peaceful and therapeutic. Then, I think I look at this in two different phases of the project. As Tara said, we all have staff that we treat as family. We build a team. I think, frankly, I'm grateful to my staff because they understand the urgency of this and performing and keeping this going. And, they immediately rallied to get through rough waters together, which I thought was fabulous. The work that we had on the boards was kind of easy to deal with, but it was the new design where I missed the collaboration. So typically I'd grab some, tracing paper and some drawings, and I'd sit at a conference table and we would have a collaborative think tank. And that's the way my studio has always worked. I want everybody's opinion, right, wrong, or indifferent. How do we think this through? And so it's a little frustrating for me to be back and forth with, the iPad, you could mark sketches up, or you could just sketch something and take a picture and text it to them. But it's not the same as that immediate back and forth. I have monitors throughout my office, so when they work and they're doing work on the computer, I walk by and I have, it drives them crazy, but I have one of those big telescoping teacher pointers, and I'm always banging on the screen and saying, move this here and try this, and that's what's lacking. And that's the fun of the business, to be honest. My favorite moments in the office are when we're doing that, because that's why we do what we do, and everything else is the business aspect of it. And so I miss the collaboration. Yeah. I'm fortunate. I spoke with Tara yesterday, and I don't have any staff that has young children. My assistant has school-age children, and she's managing them well. She's not the architect, right? So it's okay for her to be home, and often that can happen anyway. But my architectural staff, they don't have any children, which is kind of, I didn't even really put myself in that perspective until I spoke with Tara, and she explained the complications of that.
Yeah. My 5-year-old is downstairs right now doing homeschooling.
Yeah, exactly.
That for sure.
That kindergarten could be tough, right?
Yeah, they don't do it themselves, yeah. But anyway, and Randy, I know you can relate to, children with your, grandson who's 8 months old. In terms of just logistics though, your employees are remote, you have different situations, but what's great is that all of you still have projects. You have existing projects that are having to move forward. How are you managing to move forward with them when not only are you having your employees remote and occupied with family stuff, but with roadblocks of just, safety protocol? What are you doing for building in terms of making things happen?
We're making sure that people are keeping their distance from each other. We'll keep the crews smaller than what is necessary that we would have had. And we're framing a house about 2 miles from my office right now, and I would have had 10 guys on the job. But right now we just put 5 guys there. Everybody wears masks, and they're doing that voluntarily. As you know, sometimes we got to remind, but they come to work with it and they do what they're supposed to do. We narrow down the crews. We won't have an electrician, a plumber, and an HVAC guy on the site. We'll only have the plumber there for a while and then switch it up as we need it. So it's a new learning curve that we're in right now to see how we're all going to get through this.
Yeah, for sure. And Bill, with you, with your experience, do you feel like as the business owner, more falls on you to get things done? And how are you meeting your clients' needs when you may have fewer resources? Or
I think this whole pandemic, the last few months, have just caused a lot of folks to stretch. I think myself included. More hours, being that I don't have a full staff here in the office. I find myself covering. We do have some team members that are coming in kind of on a rotating basis. If they have certain things they need to get done, they do it. Again, being creative, offloading certain tasks for some folks that have younger children at home. Everyone's been really willing to work and do a great job, and I'm very fortunate that the team really stepped up during this. And again, it's just doing something that's new and different. And when you have a whole production schedule and then all the New York work says stop, and you have to put that aside, and initially there's a little bit of panic. It's like, what do we do with all this open time? And then we start to kind of learn how to operate and function in this process, and shift the workload to different types of projects and more focus in Connecticut at the time, which is all we can do. And I think it's been a learning curve, for sure.
absolutely. Now, in terms of moving projects forward, Tara, for your business, sourcing materials, nurseries, how is that all working now?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a project where we needed to get stone, and we're finding actually that, as you know, a lot of these materials are imported, and so there was a lot of granite that came from China, for instance, India, places like that. And those sources are completely dried up. So now we're sourcing things, and we very purposely source things from Vermont and New Hampshire and Canada even. But it's taking longer to procure those things, and it's more expensive. So there's definitely an effect on things that way. But even production at those places has slowed because they don't have as much staff. So it's really because it's harder to get materials on time. Projects are being delayed a little bit, if you will. We also have heard from different landscape contractors that a lot of local nurseries aren't stocked up as much as they normally would be. Or they may be starting to gear up a little more now, but I mean, it's already the middle of May. So it's just transportation and fulfillment of those kind of goods are just a little bit behind, and it is raising prices a little bit, if you will, within the industry. So we're managing, but we're asking everybody to be patient. And we're sending samples to clients, FedEx, stone samples, tile samples, so that we can get approval on things. So that's kind of what things are kind of situationally on the ground in the landscape business. That's just a couple of examples, but hopefully things will ease up a little bit. But it's just part of what we're all going through right now.
Sure. And I see Michelle nodding her head because interior design, I mean, fabrics, furnishings.
Yeah.
How are you handling that?
Well, with the construction projects, that has been moving forward, and you need to get the tile there. So we've been doing the same thing, with the sense that if it's artistic tile and that's coming out of China, we've been doing similar designs locally and making mosaics locally and things like that. I think our clients have been really wonderful with the knowledge that this is, you know, never happened before, and they understand that, and and everyone obviously is, you know, is taking a breath. But, you know, deadlines for construction, Connecticut hasn't stopped. So people still want to move in when they want to move in. They understand they're not going to get their sofas when they move in, but at this point, they're just happy to move back in with their old furniture. And that's really the reality, because, you know, I've had jobs where a project where, you know, like say a route in Los Angeles, they were closed earlier than High Point and other local New York companies. They were closed earlier, so fabric shipped to them were returned because they wouldn't receive them, and they're still closed. So I'm at 2.5 months of, you know, nothing happening on you know, furniture. So it's definitely added to our workload, just the constant, you know, checking in on things and, you know, finding the fabric that was shipped and returned and getting it back and all of that. So it's definitely a lot more of a challenge, a lot more details where things that, you know, of following up that you weren't having to do before. You know, but it is what it is, and you just have to, and everyone recognizes that. And fortunately, you know, my team is doing the best they can to do it and to manage it, and we're plugging away at it. But, you know, deep breath. So
just breathe, right? You know.
Exactly.
Chris, with architecture, I mean, permits, all of that, you know, that's always something that you have to handle. Now with everything different on towns and states, how are you navigating that?
Well, you know, there are inspections are happening via Zoom. I mean, even Greenwich is doing Zoom inspections, right? Which is interesting because I think the contractor could not zoom in on things they don't want inspected. That was for Randy. I think the timing and the schedule with the town stuff is, as I said before, most towns are trying to be as accommodating as possible with things. I have a project in New Jersey, a pretty substantial project. They're only allowing, as Tara said, 5 people on site at a time, but the building department is only open Wednesday mornings. So if you have a question or if you want something, it's hard to navigate that. I have one of my new projects needs a variance, and I'm being told that I can't get on an agenda until September or October because they're now backlogged. So that's an interesting thing, and that's why I think there's, you know, in planning a project, and it's coming across a lot of people's minds as they sit home, right? They're looking at their house, they want to do things, and the concept of no urgency. I think in the big picture, this feels like a long time, but in the big picture, it's not. You know, these things take a long time to plan and design and prepare documents and get it ready to issue anyway. So I think that people should be looking at this as business as usual, and we'll take the hurdles as they come. I think that the construction sites are the most interesting because you have new houses, and most people are quite understanding of the limitations and what can happen. But then we were also in the midst of some renovations, and some of those renovations, I have one in particular where there's a hard deadline where they won't have a place to live. The house they're renting has been rented, and how do you get it done? So we've adjusted the way we approach the management of the project. The construction as normal isn't the path any longer. It's what can we do? Sort of as Michelle said, they might have to move in with some old furniture. But from the construction standpoint, it's let's get the place watertight, safe. Let's get floors in. Let's get floors finished. If people have to paint while they're living in the house, we'll do it that way. And what's most interesting is a lot of the subcontractors seem to be imposing more regulations than the state has. So we have numerous teams on jobs that are sitting there saying, we'll come, but we don't want anybody else on the job while this is happening. So if somebody's planned from Monday through Friday, that's great. But if they linger until the following Monday, it's throwing the next crew off. And that is complicating the schedule. So I think that focusing on deadlines and getting things done is as important now as ever. And the order of it is scattered because it's more strategic than typical, if you will.
That's an excellent point. I mean, deadlines are trickier. There are delays. Sourcing is more expensive and takes longer. And you have to communicate this all to your clients, right? Who are also reeling from what's going on in the world.
Right.
And
the clients are around every day.
Sorry?
And the clients are around every day.
Yeah.
So they're watching the pot boil. Yeah.
Right. They need the hand-holding really a lot now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Bill, you're up next. Can you speak to that? How you're communicating with clients, how you're dealing with pricing, if you're getting any pushback on pricing and delays?
We're on the pricing note, we haven't changed our pricing structure, although we just haven't. We haven't changed it. We've been kind of approaching that as business as usual. However, the reality of what it's costing us, internally, everything is slowed down. It's harder. It takes multiple visits to do things. We're working on a project, this month that we're finishing, and the client's getting ready to move in. And I have, we're very strict about having all the products in place, all the equipment. Our project management teams are, I'm hard on them to be organized. And when you have 10 items missing out of 20, because of manufacturers can't supply them, some come from overseas. There's all kinds of, excuses and reasons why. But now I'm faced with having to complete a project, but I don't have all the ingredients to make that happen. So on an efficiency level, now we have to go back multiple times. So from a business cost standpoint, it's challenging. Things take longer. They cost the company more time, and we can't deliver as efficiently as we'd like to be. We're sort of proceeding and pretending that that's not an issue, but it's a real obstacle, right? It's a real obstacle. We're putting our best foot forward. We're doing everything possible to make it seamless to the client and to the partners, but it's frustrating, it's challenging, and my initial reaction to a lot of it is, what do you mean this isn't here? What did you do? And we're so programmed to operate in normal, the way it was. And I have to stop myself. And I think as Chris and Michelle said, take a deep breath and go, okay, wait a second. I just have to accept that this isn't coming for 3 more weeks. And I have to deploy another team to finish that work, and it, as Chris is saying, it might impact another electrician or another subcontractor that's on that project. So it's challenging. It's really challenging.
Absolutely. I'm curious with everyone on the panel how you're managing pricing and communicating that to clients. Tara, what is your perspective on that?
Well, I think as small business owners, we all understand what our margins are. And each project is unique and has different requirements to be able to evaluate what we need to do to get the job done and to get it done well and to maintain our standards. And I think that we've always been very competitive in the market. And I really think it's important to hold that line now because I think we've always been pretty aggressive with pricing and giving our clients a great product. And so we all have to make that evaluation, but I think it's important to hold the line at this time because we can't afford to lose money either. So, that's my perspective.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, are you hearing from clients? I'm curious, Michelle, with interior design, because things are taking longer or because there's a financial crisis and the market is the way it is. are your clients asking for discounts, and what are your thoughts on giving those out? Oh, can't hear you. Mute.
You know, I have to say, there really hasn't been any discounting being done. You know, a few outdoor furniture companies have been offering, you know, an extra 10% here or there, but it really isn't the case that that's being offered by the manufacturers and by the vendors. So it really, it's not something that I can offer. It's not happening. It's, so really, no. You know, we just, the goal is to try not to raise them, because you're having to source, you know, more custom things, and that's the reality. And I think, I think you can keep the pricing the same. It's just the you know, the three things you have is one is always price, and one is time, and the time is what's you're going to give on. You can't give on time and price. It's not happening right now. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any major discounts happening from anyone, so I can't really pass it along.
Now, in terms of I mean, right now, financials are not good. You know, this is the next Great Depression. However, you're in Connecticut, right? Which is right next to New York, and real estate is moving along. In terms of pricing, and, you know, there are sort of two stages. It's getting through the current projects right now, but then what, if you take out your crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen, you know, in the next 6 months? Chris, I'm going to put spotlight on you.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on pricing and the market now? And do you even want to speculate on the future yet? What do you think?
I think that we have a lot of positive buzz about the future of the market here. You hear it, and it's not just through the grapevine. You talk to realtors, and they're saying how busy they are, and I know as a fact that certain houses that had been sitting there went into bidding wars on rental. You know, how the rental translate to the buy, I'm not really sure quite yet. But I do believe that we should look at this as a positive. And my attitude is, get through this, right? Get enough work, stay busy, keep your staff, do what you do, stay true to yourself, but get through it. And you know, a mentor of mine told me a few weeks ago, he said, all the great planning in the world, it always takes a world event for things to really change. And, you know, Connecticut, I never felt it really came back from the recession, the Fairfield County market. And I think I've spoken about this to many people many times. I think it was kind of a perfect storm of a number of things. But this could be a blessing. I think that I've spoken with younger couples who not even married. No, you know what? We're millennials. We're career driven. We like things. We like to be in cities. We like experiences. But this has been sort of, well, let's sit at home and let's evaluate ourselves. And you know, the biological clock doesn't change. Maybe it's time for us to have kids. You know, it is nice to be in the suburbs. It's nice to be away. Look at all the people from the cities who left and flocked away from the cities to go to the Hamptons or to Maine or to, you know, to their country homes. So I'm looking at this thing as positive, and I want to be strong and ready for when it does come, because I do think it is going to come. It's going to reintroduce Fairfield County as a strong market. Especially, I think it trickles down to the commercial market. Companies are realizing that people might not be so comfortable traveling into Manhattan to work. So maybe that suburban office park starts to come back a little bit, and more people working at home, and more people working at home translates to, you know, to different things in their home offices, landscape, audio, visual, and technology, interior design, right? All these things. We're all sitting around our homes right now evaluating ourselves with that. So I think we're going to come through this. again, it feels like forever, but it really isn't when you put it in the big picture. And I think we'll come back from this thing, and I don't know if it's fall or the end of the year, but going into next year, I think we're going to be pretty strong.
Well, I'm just going to agree with that because it sounds really good to me.
Sounds good, right? I do believe it, though. I do believe it. And I think we have to live our lives that way. I mean, I don't think we can sit around here saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." We do what we do. I don't think I've worked with everybody on this this conference, and I don't think any of us, want to do anything other than what we do, and we're going to find a way through this. Right?
Yeah, I mean, for you, Randy, I mean, you're on the front line of that too with building. Do you share Chris's feeling that people are really valuing space and home in Connecticut is well positioned?
Yeah, very much so. I'm at one of my clients' house has been on the market for a year now, and she wasn't getting any showing. She has 3 this week, and I was with the agent this morning at the house, and he said there are real buyers that are coming in. And what Chris mentioned before about the rental market in Greenwich exploded. I mean, a house that was for sale for $10 million that they couldn't get, it's getting $50,000 a month on a rental, and 35. And I was reading about another one that used to rent for summer for 23. They got 32 a month. So it really has boomed up on that part. And then where are these people they're gonna come here, they're gonna see what the lifestyle is and how nice it is, and quiet, a little bit quieter, and they're not hectic. Maybe 50% of them stay, maybe 75%. It's got to be somewhere in that range. You got to figure. And then what Chris is saying, Chris said he's gotten 3 leads off of this since it started 3 weeks ago, or 6 weeks ago, I guess. I wish 3, but and he's not the only one. He's not the only architect that I know of who said the same thing, that they've gotten jobs out of this. So you got to look at it. The glass is half full, right, Chris? And we go that way. That's the way we've always gone. He's right. We didn't come out of the last recession, and this may be what pushes us out of it, so that the building comes back and like it was. We all have plenty of work.
That's great. I think that's a really high note to leave on. There are questions, and it's 11:48 now, so we're only a few minutes behind schedule. We're going to wrap this up at noon. One of the questions that came in, this one is for Bill. Where do you see the future of clients willing to invest in super efficient systems, products, and design? And well, this is really a question for all of you guys, but I'm going to let Bill take it in terms of the technical side, because technology is a big thing that's come out of this. Do you think people are going to be more comfortable with technology in the home? How do you see that happening with your business?
I think the situation we're in has just more emphasized or overemphasized the importance to your home is really key, and I think making improvements, enhancing it indoors and probably outdoors more so than ever. I think with this coming, so the silver lining I think is my crystal ball tells me we're going to see a resurgence. I don't know. I think it's going to be a late summer before everyone feels comfortable enough that this is somewhat behind us. And on the technology side, we're looking at a lot of products. Not so much efficiency. I mean, the efficiency is there, and we have energy management systems to allow a home to go off the grid and run on batteries. We have a lot of this technology, but we're seeing a lot of health and wellness technology that we've been evaluating for really about a year and a half in this huge rush. I've been really focused on, looking at, air purification systems, water purification, centric lighting and options. And the cool part is the tech we have from an app. I can show you how the particles in your home's air system have improved from before we introduced one of these systems to after. So there's a lot of cool things around health and wellness that we're really focused on because it's real, and you have someone in your home, and to know that the air is clean and the water is clean, way more important now than I think it was, a couple months ago.
That's an excellent point. Just wellness and home as sanctuary. For our interior designer, Michelle, another question that came in: what design changes and trends do you expect will emerge from this time? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on interior design and if you think there will be any things that stay with us because we're spending so much time at home. Oh, mute.
Phone keeping that. Sorry. So I agree that it's going to be, out of every business that's out there, I think so many people are going to have to change and evolve, and but what we do is at the center of it, where we're the focus now. The home is the focus, and I think that I've gotten a number of calls so far, and they're like, well, the one thing I've learned throughout this pandemic is what I have around me is what's the most important thing to me, and how my family can live and enjoy in our surroundings. And the focus of, I can't tell you how many people are like, can I get a pool in this summer? Like, could we start now? Like, you know what I mean? And I don't do that, but they're like, can you help me? So I think that so much of what we do is the focus now. And I think there are going to be some things that people are going to take into consideration in regards to a lot of open floor plans, maybe aren't the best thing for sound travel when working from home. So the home office is really key. I think that the idea of making your house your sanctuary and your vacation destination and all of that will be taken into account. So the sport court, the gym, all of those things are very important and are going to become more important for people over time. And I think that the focus is going to be on it. I don't think we're all of a sudden going to turn into space age design in the sense that we have to move into the future. I think, in fact, it might be the opposite, that hominess and that is more important to people, and the balance of really having a house work and the design of it. I always say that we always design everything we do. Everything has to have its place, and if it has its place, then it'll stay there. And I think that that's part of it as well. So I think that hominess and efficiency in how you design your home is going to be critical. And I think sound traveling is very important. I think that's come up a lot. How to keep the kids over here and the sound focused so that they can carry on work from home is important as well.
I totally agree. And I think also with summer coming, we're all at home now primarily. I know I'm excited to go outside. I'm sure a lot of people are. Michelle, you mentioned the pool houses. Tara, as our landscape designer, what are your thoughts? Do you think?
I couldn't agree with the panel more, and the positivity of what's happening for all of us in Fairfield County, because we like Chris, we also have during this time period picked up new projects because people really do want to create a staycation, if you will, for their homes. And I think you're going to find that people are going to be traveling less for sure in the near term. And so they want their homes and their outdoor environments to be really functional and beautiful and restorative to them. And that's what landscapes do. I mean, even all of us being inside during the worst weather ever, right? Like the spring was like so cold and horrible, snow, and so all anybody ever wanted to do was like to get outside and take a walk, or have a beautiful property that you can step outside of your beautiful home and then reconnect with nature. And I think that's a very calming element. And especially if you have children too who are at home, you want to make sure that they've got plenty of room to run around and exercise in a safe manner. And people are probably going to be entertaining in smaller groups too. So you want to be able to provide multiple kinds of spaces for people where, instead of having gigantic parties now, maybe people are going to be having smaller gatherings. So, we can accommodate, you know, the needs of people. But, you know, it's an exciting time actually, because I think that there's going to be a lot of demand for creating those outdoor living environments.
I also think that I also think there's going to be a big surge in secondary homes as well because of that. Because of the fact that they can't go on vacation, that they're going to create their own vacation away, you know, homes away that they're safe and they feel comfortable in. For instance, Nantucket, you know, they're quarantining people coming in for 2 weeks. So if you have a house in Nantucket and you want to be there for the entire summer, great. You know, so I think that that's something we're not going to see immediately, but the push for second homes is going to be big over the next few years, in my opinion. So.
And we have clients right now too that are, you know, our new projects are for their second homes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're very happy to be, you know, out of the city and in the country, and really excited about, you know, developing those places to be really exactly what they want them to be. So that it can be a sanctuary for them in their home and their family, you know, to really, you know, feel safe and secure.
That's great. I completely agree. My best friend bought a house, a second home, because they can't go on vacation. So that's definitely, that one case study, you know, makes that point. So we have time for, I think, one last question. This is sort of a tricky one, but how do you create a sense of urgency when some folks may want to wait until the pandemic is over to do their project, which may be a long time? Are you even finding that to be the case? And do you think it will be a long time? And I'm going to let Chris answer this one because we talked a little bit about it.
You get the tricky ones. I think I touched upon it a little earlier. The urgency aspect of it is these things are marathons. They take time. So the only thing I could imagine in terms of people waiting to do something that they want to do might be to see how some of the economic positioning turns out. But I think locally the market is getting more expensive. I think that the secondary home market will get a little more expensive, and the timing of these projects doesn't change. So I don't know. If somebody is thinking about doing something, I recommend going ahead and doing it. You know, you could plan. It takes a long time. It takes, you know, a new house is going to take a year before you break ground. And there's a lot of work to be done in that 1 year stretch before you even start to have fun with the construction. So be urgent. I'm an impatient person.
It's 11:58 now. Do any of you want to have one last comment that you didn't feel you got to articulate? Now's your
Someone really wants to get a hold of me. Sorry.
Michelle's got another call. We've got to wrap this up.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I think that was great. I learned a lot. Thank you everyone on this panel for sharing your expertise and your time, and for elevating our design community and supporting our design community, which I think will benefit from this in the long term in Connecticut if we can all just hustle and get through this tough time now. And thank you to New England Home for all of your support for the community and for bringing us together to talk about something really important. And I hope everyone has a great day, and take a deep breath if you're having a hard time. We'll get through it, okay?
Be well. Thank you very much. Everybody be healthy, and let's get through this together, okay?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Go outside and play.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.